Hello everyone, my name is Wesley, this is Woo Can Cook. Today we're doing a crispy salmon taco that we're going to do with a glaze that's mostly built off of miso paste. So we're going to take a look at what miso paste is, and I'm actually not going to be using miso paste today, but we're going to substitute it with something that comes from Korean food, which is a very, very close substitute. And we're going to take a look at that and kind of take a look at what the difference is and why am I using it. So all of that stuff coming up in our recipe today. So if you're looking for that stuff, as always, if you're trying to cook what we're cooking on stream, everything that we cook on stream, it has a recipe video that goes along with it. Those always live over on my YouTube channel. So those are out every Friday. So last Friday we came out with this recipe and kind of took a look at that. One is a part of a larger series that we've been doing dedicated to Asian fusion foods. So like weird things that we can smash together from different cultures. In this case, Japanese miso paste and a Mexican taco, and kind of taking a look at what that was going to look like. So if you're interested in stuff like that, definitely head over to the YouTube channel, check out what that stuff is, what's going on over there. We're working our way up to 5,500 subscribers by the end of the month. So if you want to help us hit our subscriber goal, please hop over and subscribe. All right. Diving right in though, we're starting off. So what we're going to do is set up a glaze here. So behind me there's two things that are about to happen. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to wok fry the salmon. So we're going to start off with a very, very high heat and very, very quick sear. That's going to be about, I think it's going to spend maybe 2 minutes. Yeah, about 2 minutes in the wok. That's going to be really, really quick. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pull it out and then we're going to toss it into the oven and kind of let that finish the cook. And that's going to help us get this really, really crispy, but also at the same time, really, really tender piece of salmon. So one of my favorite ways of cooking a piece of salmon. So we're going to take a look at all that fun stuff. Go there. To start off, though, what I'm starting off with right now is our glaze. So the first thing that we're going to set up before we do anything else is going to be our glaze here. So, I'm kicking things off first, as with many of the Woo Can Cook recipes. This is 4 cloves of crushed garlic, crushed and minced garlic. And then next what we're going to do is our ½ inch or about an inch or about a single tablespoon of finely minced ginger. But you'll notice that one thing is different from what we normally do. Normally I put this off to the side and it heads straight into our wok fry. We're not actually going to do that today because it's not going to go into our wok fry. What we're going to do is we're tossing that straight into our glaze, which means that it is not actually going to get cooked. And I have mentioned this on a couple of different streams too. But anytime that you're chopping up garlic or ginger, and it's not going to go into a wok fry. So if it is going to go into a wok fry, you can get a little bit sloppy with the way that you chop that stuff, and it's still going to be okay, especially the garlic. And that's mostly because when you wok fry something, it sort of just starts falling apart in the wok oil anyway. So if you're a little bit sloppy with the way that you mince something, or if you don't do a great job with the way that you chop your ginger, it probably is going to end up being okay. And that's mostly just because the wok fry is going to just sort of pull apart that garlic anyway. So just because makes it a little bit more forgiving. But in this case today, since we're actually not going to let this get into a wok fry, that means that we need to be a little bit more particular and a little bit more careful about the way that we chop this stuff. Because if you leave any kind of like random chunks of garlic or ginger floating around, that's going to end up being a big problem. You're going to taste it. It's going to be weird. Sister Silence, yeah, you made it to the beginning. Thank you for tuning in. Oh yeah, garlic press. Yeah, I used to have. So I have no problems with garlic presses. I used to have this really great garlic press that I used for like I think at least a decade, and it was a little bit different from your standard garlic press in that. So most garlic presses that you'll find, they look like this. They're one of these things. You put the garlic in here, and then you press it down, and this big block kind of presses the garlic out, and then you go this way, and it kind of pulls all of the garlic out. These things are super annoying. I don't particularly love these things because they're just really annoying to clean, because you've got all these weird things that are going on here. And then like on top of that, it doesn't always get all of the garlic out, so you end up using more garlic per like recipe than you actually need to, because it's not actually using up all of the garlic. But more importantly, the real reason why I don't like it is because I don't like having to clean that thing. But I used to own this other garlic press that it didn't look like that. It was just a piece. It was literally just the this sharp portion, and you press down, and it was like this flat piece, and you could just press down and rock back and forth. And it was super simple, and it was literally, it might have been the only single-use item in my entire kitchen that I used all the time. But I used it for like 10-12 years or so, and then eventually I snapped it in half because I just pushed down too hard. And I have not been able to find another one since then. I have no idea where it came from. I think I got it in like a blind lot of kitchen goods. But yeah, that is on my to-do list, is to replace the garlic press. But also if you don't like doing dishes, it's pretty easy to just do a quick crush and fine mince. Although I will say I have never actually noticed the difference. So if you really don't like knife work, yeah, absolutely use the garlic press. I just really hate cleaning that stupid thing. Yeah, the cylinder shape. Yeah, those ones are really nice. I hate that black one. I don't actually know why I own it. I think I got it because I got frustrated trying to find the replacement for the old garlic press. It was really cool. It was just this piece of, like, it was a piece of plastic, and then it had the metal portion where you press the garlic down, and then the piece of plastic just sort of like tapered up like this. So you press down and then you kind of rock back and forth, and it gets all of the garlic crushed. And then because it's such a simple instrument, you can kind of just use a spoon to kind of like get the rest of that garlic out. It was really useful. One of my favorite, one of the only garlic presses that I have actually liked. Yeah, let me know if you find it, and I will probably end up buying it. I think I saw it at Bed Bath & Beyond once, but I haven't actually looked for it in a while. Yeah. Scab Daddy. What kind of knife is it? Yeah, lots of people ask about this knife. This is a French knife. You can generally tell when a knife is a French knife because of the longer profile, which is also part of what like made it a little bit tricky to get used to, is because of the way that the knife is shaped. So the French chef's knife, this is 12 inches. Your more typical, like the more typical chef's knives that you come across in the States, they're generally run about 8 inches. Sometimes you see them like 10 inches. So it is a little bit longer, and it's actually the reason why the knife runs off the cutting board sometimes, because I'm not paying attention. But yeah, it's definitely, that's the most distinctive part about it, is the shape. It's made by a company that you probably won't find anymore because I don't think that they make knives anymore, but they're called Pernod Nogent. If you like, so I tracked this one down in an estate sale, and honestly, I don't even know where you could find it other than in an estate sale. But if you're looking for a knife similar to this, what I always recommend is look for the Sabatiers. They kind of look very similar to this, and they're also still in production, so you can buy those at like Macy's and stuff. Very good. All right, next up, so moving on with our glaze here. That was my garlic and ginger that just went into the bowl. And then what I'm adding next is that was 4 tablespoons of soy sauce. And then what we're going to do is add a couple of other things that are going to sort of stack on top and just really kind of create this nice glaze. So the next up, this is going to be a single tablespoon of mirin. Mirin is very sweet and also a little bit bitter. But I love it in a glaze because it's adding a nice bit of sugar to it. Next is 2 tablespoons of sesame oil, which actually seems like a lot. That might be too much. We'll see. And then next up, this is a single 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. So obviously, what should stand out to you is that we're adding a lot of sugar and a lot of sweet things to our sauce element or our marinade element, for the very specific reason that we're going to be using it as a glaze, which means that we need lots of sugar in order for it to crisp up and glaze. Ooh, ceramic. Yeah, those are fun. Supposedly they're supposed to not get dull. I don't think that's true. I think all knives will eventually get dull, but supposedly they take a lot longer to get dull. I used to own one of those actually. I used one for a long time. I think I was using a ceramic knife for like 10 years or so, until I found this knife basically. Okay, next up, 1 tablespoon. 2 tablespoons? 1 tablespoon. This is a single tablespoon of what should be white miso paste. Today, as you can plainly see, this is not white miso paste. You can kind of see the light's kind of in the way. This is actually not white miso paste. This is something very similar. So it is a similar paste that comes from Korean food. It is also derived from the fermentation of soybean. but it's called doenjang. It is very, very similar to Korean, to miso paste, with the one exception that it comes from Korean food and not Japanese food. Literally the only reason why I'm using that instead of miso paste is because I haven't had the chance to go buy more miso paste. And the last time that I needed it before I was about to use it, I happened to be at a Korean grocery store, and that's what I bought. So you could use it if you're in a pinch, if you live near, like, close to an H Mart, but can't find Japanese ingredients. Japanese ingredients, by the way, are very, very difficult for me to locate because I live in Chinatown, and probably the nearest place that sells Japanese ingredients is like all the way in Richmond. It's like a whole, like, 3 cities over before I can find Japanese ingredients. Probably would have to go all the way out to range 99. So very, very often you'll probably will see me substituting. Anytime that I get miso paste, it's at one very small grocery store in Chinatown that smells miso paste. So very often I will substitute out the Japanese ingredients with things that come from Korean food or Chinese food or stuff like that, because it ends up being a little bit easier to locate here in Oakland, Chinatown. So that's our glaze. Whoa, lots of folks. Oh yeah, doenjang. Yeah. Oh cool. Yeah. Lots of people don't know what doenjang is. It's what I understand about it is that it's essentially like unspiced gochujang, which gochujang comes from a very similar form of fermentation, but it is much spicier. So yeah, oftentimes you'll see very, very similar, like, parallels in a lot of foods that come from different cuisines. So Korean food has a lot of similar things that live in Japanese cuisine. Same with Chinese cuisine versus, like, Thai cuisine. Thai and Vietnamese cuisine also have very, very similar parallels. So lots. Cool. Next up, so this is my salmon fillet. This is an Alaskan salmon fillet. What we're doing here, so you'll notice before we dive in, the skin is still attached. So lots of people, I've read a lot about people removing this skin, which is a terrible crime. Please don't remove the skin to your salmon. I see lots and lots of people remove the skin because they find it gross, they want to chew on it and stuff. But if you're frying your salmon, or if you're doing anything with the salmon fillet that requires any kind of frying, it's very, very useful to leave the skin on, because the skin crisps up really, really nicely, and then what you'll end up with is this nice crispy piece of salmon. If you remove it when you go and try and do your sear, which we're going to do in a wok today, what's going to happen is that salmon is going to overcook really, really quickly, which is not what we're after. So we want to protect that salmon from overcooking, and by doing it with the skin on, it's going to keep it nice and crispy for us. And then on top of that, it also will crisp up really, real nicely. Yeah. Cool, yeah. There's so many people. I'm sorry if I miss any questions, by the way. There's a lot of people in the chat right now, so let me know if I did miss something. Please feel free and repeat yourself. I also don't mind answering the same thing twice. But there's lots and lots of this chat in front of me only goes about like four lines back, and then I don't see it anymore. So I'm sorry if I missed something. Yeah. Hey, there's Hamcharo. That's Hamcharo. Hamcharo is the hamster that eats ramen. He only gets to eat ramen when somebody subscribes, so please feel free and go over to the YouTube channel and feed Hamcharo. And subscribe to the YouTube channel. Lots of fun stuff coming up. By the way, if you're just now tuning in, what we're cooking is a recipe that came out over on my YouTube channel. Those are out every Friday. So last Friday we came out with this recipe for a miso glazed salmon taco, which we're going to do in some white corn tortilla. White corn? I think we have white corn. I don't remember. It might be yellow corn. I forget. But don't cook with flour tortillas. That's terrible, and you're a monster. All right. Anyway, flour tortillas are fine. You can see flour tortillas if you like them. All right. So there's our salmon. What we're doing is glazing. You'll notice the first thing that I did is I only glazed the skin, the fillet side. So the skin side down, it has not been glazed. That's very, very important. We don't want to glaze that side because our glaze is filled with a whole bunch of sugar. So there's brown sugar in it. There's miso paste in it. There's a soy sauce which has a little bit of sugar in it. There's all kinds of sugar that's going on in our salmon glaze right now. So what we want to do is make sure before we start frying this thing is that the side that's facing down in the oil, we don't want sugar on that side, because if it faces down while it's frying, what's going to happen is that all of that sugar, it's going to start burning, and then you're going to have burnt sugar. So by leaving that skin on, but also not putting any sugar on that side, it's going to get this really, really nice crisped up piece of skin without actually burning these sugars in our glaze. Yeah. Taco Bell unfollowed, yeah. Hey, more ham charo, yes. Please feed ham charo. We love him. Cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to glaze this 3 separate times. So that was our first glaze. Next we're going to do our wok fry, then I'm going to pull it out, and then I'm going to glaze it again. Then we're going to put it in the oven for 10 minutes. We're going to put it in the oven for 5 minutes, then I'm going to remove it and then glaze it one more time, and then we're going to put it back in for one more 5-minute glaze. Yeah. Scab Daddy, yeah. Am I on IG? Yeah. So everything Wu Can Cook. So we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube, and we're on TikTok. All of them are Wu Can Cook. So definitely follow over there too. Lots of fun stuff going on. It's the only meat that looks delicious raw. Yeah, but it also only looks delicious because it is colored. I believe salmon is artificially colored nowadays to look pink, which is gross. But here we are. All right, next up I have my wok going, and then this is ripping hot right now. This is about as hot as it's going to get on a home range. And then I'm adding, this is an insane amount of oil. That's probably a little over a 1/4 cup of oil. Very, very useful though. You'll notice, so my wok is round bottom, which means that it has a rounded bottom to it, which is why it kind of rolls around like this. So usually what I'll do is I normally would flip this over and show you guys, but I just put a whole bunch of oil in here. So what's really useful about a round bottom wok is that when you put oil in, all of the oil just sort of pulls up where the wok kind of rounds out. That's really, really useful for something like a shallow fry, which we're about to do, because it kind of helps us submerge what we're frying in less oil. And what you want to do is put that in laying away from you, but the salmon kind of curled over. I do also have a whole bunch of burn marks on my hands, if you notice. Not if you get wild salmon, that's absolutely true. Not if you get wild salmon. You're going to have a real tough time finding wild salmon in California, though. Unless you go to like a real nice butcher shop or something. I'm pretty sure that the salmon that I get at Sprouts is not wild salmon. Yeah. Yeah, cool. Alright, so that's in my wok. You'll notice what's going on is all this oil, it's sort of pulling up around it. I might even add a little bit more oil. And that's going to really help us get this nice crispy piece of salmon skin, what we're after here. Remember, also another very important part to remember is that salmon, just like anything that you eat in sushi, can be eaten raw. So this is not like chicken or beef. Actually, you can eat beef raw too. But it's not like chicken or pork where you have to cook it through. And we're not necessarily looking for an internal temperature in this case. Really what we're trying to do is just get that really, really nice crisped up texture on our skin side. And then what we're going to do is we're going to throw it in the oven and we're going to finish the cook in that oven. Yeah. Cool. Summer speak. Cool. Hello to everyone just tuning in. My name is Wesley. This is Wu Can Cook. If this is your first time tuning in, we're here every Tuesday and Thursday at 6:30 PST. With new recipes out on my YouTube channel every Friday. So what we're cooking right now is the recipe that came out on my YouTube channel last Friday. In that recipe, we kind of walked through a whole series that we've been doing where we've been reproducing a lot of weird stuff, or like creating a lot of weird recipes that are based off of Asian fusion. So the first, or my favorite thing from that series is we did this lapchung carbonara where we used the Chinese lapchung in a carbonara pasta. Super weird and also really, really tasty. So stuff like that all popping up over on the YouTube channel. So if you haven't checked that out yet, definitely head over there and check it out. Lots of cool stuff. Feed Ham Charo, we're working our way up to 5,500 subscribers by the end of the month. I'm pretty sure that we just passed it. But if you want to help us hit our subscriber goal, please hop over and give it a subscribe. Alright, so here's our first flip. After that first flip, we're really not trying to cook the other side of that salmon very much. We're mostly just trying to pick up a little bit of color. I like to flip it over and let it go for maybe like 45 seconds or so, and that's going to be it. We don't need to do very much else beyond that, really what we're trying to do. Most of the texture that we're trying to pick up is going to be on that skin side. So at this point, I just like to give it a little bit of time, and that's going to really kind of let some of that salmon sear, or let some of that glaze back over and take it out. And repeat. All right, one more time, let's lay this down properly. Here's going away from us. Anytime that you're frying, this is especially true with shallow fries, but anytime there's a whole crap load of oil in your wok like this, what you want to do is when you lay something down, you want that thing to be laying away from you. Same thing when you flip, you want to be flipping away from you, especially if there's lots and lots of oil in your pan or your wok. Because what happens is you lay it down and you flip, or if you flip and you do that towards you, you're going to splash all of that oil towards you. What happens when you lay something down away from you is it splashes away from you. Very, very useful. So that doesn't always work out if you're trying to flip a piece of salmon that's very, very thin and it sort of falls over on itself, and then you drop your hand into a piece of oil, which I just did. Or I do that all the time. But do your best. Lay that shit away from you, otherwise you're going to burn yourself. All right. Cool. One more time, we're going to do this. This is 4 fillets pieces of salmon, or 4 sliced up pieces of salmon. Once again, we're going to do this. Should be about, I like to go for, on a home range, usually about 2 minutes. When we do this in wok burners at our pop-up, it usually ends up being closer to like minute 15, maybe a little bit less. On a home range though, because your wok doesn't get as hot, usually sears, they take a little bit longer. We're really just trying to pick up some color. Yeah. Cool. All right, one more time, flipping away from us. There you go. Once again, every time that we flip, that second side, very, very brief. Yeah, lots of people think that it's burnt. It's not burnt. Well, technically a sear is just controlled burning. That's kind of the point. We're trying for it to be burnt, but burnt in a controlled way. This is the most tasty part. Also, if you really don't like it burnt, you can peel off the skin afterward and it's going to be perfectly cooked. But I gotta say, the skin, best part. Alright. 2 more pieces. Whoa, don't drop it. Yeah. Metal spatula and metal pan, yeah, that's kind of like the thing that you would do in a lot of wok cooking. So you definitely don't want to use a rubber spatula in a wok. The rubber spatula is going to melt for sure. So like the kind of thing that you would use on a non-stick skillet, or maybe like if you're frying eggs, stuff like that, or stainless steel skillet, things like that. Those rubber spatulas, they burn really, really quickly. I actually have one that I burned because I was not paying attention. So this sort of thing. Can we see that? Ham Charles in the way. So yeah, rubber spatulas, silicone spatulas, all of that stuff. You don't want to use that in a wok cook because the wok heat is going to be much, much higher than that sort of rubber, and that like hardened rubber can really withstand. That stuff is going to burn, but that stuff is going to melt really, really quickly, which happens all the time. Yeah. Cool. How do I get real flame going in the kitchen? Yes, so you gotta have gas. If you don't have gas, lots of people ask me about like what to cook on if you don't have gas ranges. So usually what I recommend is if you don't have access to a gas range, first thing I recommend is get a gas range. They're really nice. I freaking hate electric ranges. They're fucking terrible. But if you can't get a gas range, lots of people can't get a gas range. I'm pretty sure everywhere in Hawaii you can't get a gas range. There's a requirement to have an electric range in your apartments. So if you can't get a gas range, you're going to end up with like induction or maybe an electric stove. What I always recommend if you're trying to get into wok cooking and you're trying to do it on an electric range is to do it on cast iron woks. Those seem to work really, really well for induction top wok cooking. No. All right, here's our final piece of salmon going in. Yeah. Cool. There are so many things happening on this chat, I can't check them all. But yeah, definitely if you're trying to cook on an electric range and you're not used to wok cooking, that cast iron wok, it's going to be a lot more useful for you. I always recommend, especially, this is probably pretty commonly understood, but if you're cooking on an electric range, probably don't get a wok that's rounded bottom like this. First off, because a rounded bottom wok, it feels very different. If you've never cooked in a wok before, the first thing that you do should not be in a rounded bottom wok because they're very unusual. And if you've never cooked on anything that has, where you're literally just cooking in a bowl, that's going to feel really unusual for you. But also, because a flat-bottomed wok, which is pretty common, they kind of distribute heat a little bit more similarly to how a frying pan behaves. And that's going to feel a little bit more familiar. It's kind of a nice stepping stone to getting into wok cooking. Burnt food gives you cancer. Everything gives you cancer. You're missing out. All right. That one is burnt. That one is burnt. 1 out of 4 though. I probably will still eat that. That's my favorite part of this fish is the burnt part. All right. Yeah, the skin is supposed to be crispy. Correct. Bring it back. All right, so here's our finished salmon. What we're going to do before it's heading over into the oven is we're going to glaze it down one more time. So here's another coating of our glaze. And once again, we're going to do this 3 times. So this is our second coating of our glaze. The third time is going to be halfway through our bake. So we're going to bake this in a 400 for a full 10 minutes. At 5 minutes, I'm going to pull it out, and then we're going to let this glaze one more time and then finish it up. At this point, by the way, you could totally just straight up start eating this right now. There's nothing wrong with eating this salmon right now. Alright. So I'm setting that for 5 minutes. It's going to go for a total of 10 minutes. After 5 minutes, we're going to pull that out and then glaze it one more time. Alright. Yeah, some for lunch. That's actually why I made so much. So that's about 1 1/4 pound of salmon fillet. And then I'm going to eat the rest of that for lunch. Probably like lunch and then lunch. 2 lunches at least. Okay. All right, so next up, this is going to be about a 1/4 head. This is some Napa cabbage. This also, just like the other doenjang that we were using, comes from a Korean grocery store, and I believe it is it's supposed to be used for kimchi. I think that's why they stock it. What we're doing with it today is I'm going to be using it. Excuse me. What we're gonna do here, we're gonna use this for a quick slaw. So one of my favorite slaws, mostly because it's really easy to make and pickles really quickly. So we're gonna do this with a couple of Chinese elements, which you absolutely don't have to use if you can't get your hands on it. So what I'm starting off with, this is gonna think probably will be about half. Yeah, let's do half a head. 1/4 head is not enough. This is a really small piece of cabbage. Yeah. So what I'm doing is I'm just cutting out the core here and cut out the rest of this. This is also kind of, and then. We're going for as thin as you can manage. Should have washed it. Yeah, it's really hard to wash cabbage as a full head. Usually what I like to do is we're going to cut it up. Cabbage, by the way, is one of the vegetables that you absolutely should wash, especially if you're doing it in a raw, in a raw slaw like we are about to do. Mostly because it's really, really dirty. Not just with germs, but it's also like filled with like dirt and stuff because it's literally. So you even saw, before we started chopping it up, you even saw it had a whole bunch of dirt on it. Usually what I like to do is chop it up and then wash it. If you really want, you could double wash it, which is sometimes what I do with lettuce. But cabbage, definitely one of the I don't say that you have to do this with all produce, but I try and wash my produce with as much as possible. Cabbage, probably one of the more important ones to wash though, because it's covered in dirt. But the other reason, also another very important reason, especially here in California, that you want to make sure and wash your cabbage. Same with your romaine lettuce too, is that there was a recent E. coli outbreak with your cabbage and romaine lettuce, and that stuff's real dangerous. So if you don't want E. coli, wash that shit. What I like to do, I have some fruit wash that I use. This stuff is really kind of hard to find because it's only sold at Trader Joe's. But fruit wash very useful because it's like a really, really watered down form of soap. So it rinses off of your fruits and veggies really easily. Yeah, you find like flies and like, I find like spiders a lot and like just a lot of like weird shit that you don't want to eat. So that's not necessarily true for all produce. You don't have to like wash apples and tomatoes and stuff. Usually I end up washing that stuff anyway, not because it's like super dirty or anything, but mostly because when you buy it, you're like picking it off of the street, especially like Chinatown stuff. So I like to wash it anyway, but cabbage and stuff like that, it's mostly because it's like covered in bugs and stuff. So at the very least, even if you don't have fruit wash, give it a good rinse. Yeah, caterpillars, stuff like that. Totally, all very common things to come across in your cabbage. Yeah, what we're doing. Yeah, what we're doing is right now is we're assembling a quick slaw, which is one of my favorite parts of this, and that's going to go right on top with our salmon. Before we do that, though, it's been 5 minutes. So what I just did, really what I should be using is a salad spinner, but I don't feel like getting my salad spinner out. I just threw it into a real quick, I just threw that into a strainer and then we just kind of shook the water out. But if you've got a salad spinner and you don't mind digging it out of your cabinet, that'll work too. All right, so here's our salmon. This is halfway through. Where's my glaze? We're going to add one more layer of glaze here. This, by the way, is not my favorite brush. If you've got a pastry brush, my favorite, especially with like glazes and stuff, is going to be those rubber silicone brushes. That happens to be at our commercial kitchen. I took it to the kitchen for a pop-up, so I'm using this, which is technically a paintbrush, and I don't love it, but we'll make it work. But if you can, get yourself a silicone brush. Those are a lot more useful for cooking. All right, so that's going back into the oven for another 5 minutes. Meanwhile, we're going to take a look at what's the last couple of things that's going in this. I believe in our original recipe, by the way, if you're looking for the original recipe, that's over on the YouTube channel. I think in the original recipe, had called for, what we just used was red onions, and I think that was mainly because that's what I had on hand. Today what we're using is some shallots, so red shallots. Pretty close. Well, no, they're not the same. They're not the same thing at all. A shallot is a little bit more pungent and definitely a little bit more punchy than what you would get from a red onion. I think they're going to work really great today for the purpose be a little more punchy than that red onion. But if you can't find a shallot, you can absolutely use that red onion. What we called for in the original recipe over on the YouTube channel was, I think it was a quarter of a red shallot. And today what we're using this in lieu of that quarter of an onion is going to be 2 red shallots. Yeah. Okay, you just be careful not to spill. Yeah, I guess you could. That's a good point. Yeah, I guess you could. It depends. It depends on like how much do you care about your aprons. I usually don't put the apron on, especially like when we're doing like prep days for our pop-ups. I like don't put the apron on until we start cooking. Just like it's really uncomfortable, and like having the apron on your neck is really annoying. So I don't wear it unless I have to. The only part that I find is like really important to wear the apron is once you start cooking and there's like oil splatter going on, because then you'll splash oil on whatever you're wearing. So unless you're wearing a shirt that you really don't give a shit about, you probably won't wear the apron while you're cooking. All right, so here's our shallots. We're gonna slice this up as thinly as we can manage. We do a pickled shallot in our pop-up, and for that pickled shallot, I usually chop about 100 of these. So I have gotten really fast at chopping shallots. If you're wondering why, or how I got so fast at chopping shallots, it's because I usually chop 100 of these a day. It also makes me question if there's really a reason why I have to use shallots instead of red onions. That's just me though. Ooh, which shallots do I recommend? Yeah. So in a couple of the Wu Can Cook recipes, we use what I usually refer to them as Chinese shallots, which look a little bit different. They kind of look a little bit more like just like a really tiny onion. I find that those tend to be a little bit more punchy, but also are like really annoying to cut because they're really small. So you have to peel a lot of them. So we just peeled 2 shallots. If you were using Chinese shallots, you would have had to peel like 7 or 8 of them, which is super annoying and not worth it. So usually what I'll do, I just say find the biggest shallot that you can get, and it's going to be about the same thing anyway. All right, so next up to our slaw, I'm adding, this is going to be 2 tablespoons of red vinegar. If you can't find red vinegar, this comes from Chinese food, by the way, and you see it a lot in a lot of like Chinese dim sum. If you can't find red vinegar, it is relatively similar to like red wine vinegar. That probably might be the closest, or what I always say, if you can't find either of those things, if you can't find either of those things, apple cider vinegar also a really great option at the sub. How's this looking? Yeah, that's done. All right. So before we finish that up, the last thing that we're going to do is our cilantro. So lots of people ask me about the cilantro trick recently, that I recently, a friend of mine, or actually my business partner told me about. What we're going to do, this is nothing fancy. This is not a specific tool that you need for cilantro. This is just literally just a fork. And then what we're going to do is run our fork through the stalks of the cilantro. It is not the most food conservation conscious solution to picking your cilantro, but it does save you a whole bunch of time. So. By the way, in cilantro, the stems of your cilantro, they're filled with flavor. So if you're trying to like create something that you're trying to impart the flavor of cilantro to, say like a stock, or maybe even like a crema, things like that, you can make use of that stock because the stock is filled with a whole bunch of water that comes out of the cilantro, so cilantro juice, you could think of it as. That's really useful if you're trying to impart that flavor. It is not something that you necessarily want to chew on, especially in a raw context like we're about to use, or any context where you're going to use it as a garnish, because what's going to happen is that cilantro stem is going to be super chewy, which is not fun. So what I like to do is pick it out. Lots of times what I'll do if I'm working on making a stock coming up anytime soon, I'll probably throw it into a freezer bag and save those stock stems, or those stems for my stock bases, because they're packed with the flavor of cilantro. But in today's case, I'm not actually doing that, and we're really just get these flat leaves. Yeah, Well, I believe it is a genetic thing that when you can't, when you don't like cilantro, that's definitely genetic. My sister-in-law hates this stuff. So, by the way, if you are getting into more cilantro, this is going to straight up save you like a good solid 20 minutes. Normally when we do cilantro, in order to pick this much cilantro, it would have taken like a good solid probably 20 minutes or so in order to pick this much cilantro. And we just saved all that time just by using a fork. It also, again, not the most conservative way of picking cilantro. We definitely wasted a lot of cilantro just now, but pick your battles. So next up, what we're going to do is we're going to thinly just give this a real rough chop. So what I like to do with cilantro, so the main reason what we have to pay attention to when we chop cilantro, so when you slice down, this knife is super sharp, so it actually does work a little bit. But what happens when you chop down on your cilantro is that it doesn't cut all the way through. And that's kind of really, really annoying because you're going to have to go over it many, many times. So what we like to do when we cut up, not just cilantro, but anything that's like a flat leaf like this, so also true for like basil, sage, stuff like that. So we want to bunch it up really, really tight. And that's going to help us get these nice and generally just going to help our knife cut all the way through it. And then what we're just going to do is do that a couple of times. And then there you go. This might actually be too much cilantro, but I have stopped trying to save cilantro because it goes bad so fast. That might actually be enough. Let's go for it. Yeah, bunch and twist the roll. That's the key. Alright, so we're giving this one more quick toss. I'm going to add a little bit of salt, actually more than a little bit. I'm going to add a lot of salt. This is kosher salt, by the way, so when you see me pinching a whole bunch of salt, that's because it's kosher salt, which means that it is a little bit less salt than you normally would be doing if you were using straight up table salt. And then the last thing that we want to do, so the slaw benefits from pickling. So the longer that you let it sit in that vinegar that we just added, the better that it's going to taste. So this is going to be really, really good. Probably the best that it will taste is tomorrow. And that's once it's kind of been sitting in its own juices for a really long time, we'll have started to pickle. Obviously, I'm not going to wait until tomorrow to eat our tacos. So, but if you're really committed, probably the first thing that you do is start with this bit. Yeah, that's real nice. All right. Last up, we have a couple more garnishes to throw together here. I keep putting this knife away. I keep forgetting that there's garnishes. This is some avocado. A couple fun tricks for your avocado. So stop trying to do your avocado seeds this direction. This is a real bad idea because if you miss the seed, that knife is going straight into your hand, which is not good. Put the avocado down and then swing at it. And that's going to help you pop the seed off. The other thing that you don't want to do is try and pull the knife, this knife out from the seed this direction because if you slip, again, that knife is going straight into your hand, which is not fun. So point the knife away from you and then pop it out with your thumb. That's going to help not cut your hand open, which I have also done. So I made like every mistake that you can possibly make at this point. Yeah. What was the second vinegar that we added after the red vinegar? So the first thing that we added was red vinegar. The second thing that we added was rice vinegar. Just because it adds a little bit more extra brightness. If you don't have rice vinegar, you could also just use plain like distilled white vinegar. Although I think rice vinegar is going to be pretty easy to find. Generally pretty easy to find. Maybe not for everyone. All right. here's our avocado. I'm going to use maybe half of this. And then finally, last up, here's our lime. We're going to give this a little bit of a garnish. Limes, by the way, are more difficult to slice through the skins because it has this waxy exterior. So don't try and cut through your limes this direction because your knife is probably going to slip. Flip that thing over and then slice in this direction. It's going to be a lot easier. So if you're trying to slice lime wedges, go this direction. Save you a lot of trouble. All right. Last up, the last thing that I'm going to do here is we're going to reheat some tortillas. So if you were really committed, you can make your own tortillas. I am not going to do that because I'm lazy. We're going to reheat some Mission tortillas though. These are white corn tortillas. What I like to do, this only works, by the way, if you have a gas oven or a gas range. If you don't have a gas range, you can't do this. But you could probably do it in a non-stick skillet too. What I'm doing is I'm throwing the tortilla right on top of that grate. And that's just sort of exposing it to the open flame. And that, in my experience, has been the best possible way of reheating tortillas. If you don't have a gas range, then obviously you can't do it over open flame. What you'll end up having to do is reheating that tortilla over a non-stick skillet, which will work kind of okay. That's a huge mess. The Corona, yeah. One more. So the oven, by the way, or the gas range, by the way, over medium-low heat. You're actually watching the whole thing. That's cool. I'm glad that people watch the whole thing. Yeah, it's making you hungry as fuck. Cool. Yeah. Ooh, it's a little burned. You stop touching your hair and rubbing your nose. All right. Let's reset this camera. Ooh, yeah, alternatives to cilantro. So if you don't like cilantro, or if you lack the gene to like cilantro, I think is the real answer. You could totally just leave it out, and it will still be okay. I would not try, so lots of people try and substitute it with parsley because it looks similar. Those are very different things. You don't try and use parsley. Honestly, if you don't like cilantro, just straight up leave it out, and it's going to be okay. You'll be just fine. There's so much other things going on in what we're cooking today, but also in the slaw itself too. You're gonna do just fine. There are, however, other things that you don't want to leave out though. So definitely don't leave out that miso paste, for example, because it's the whole point of what we're cooking. All right. Let's pick our favorite piece. Or forgot to do it again. What you should be doing is scoring the skin. I forgot to score the skin though. This, by the way, if you don't like fish skins, the point where you should remove that fish skin, the salmon skin here. Although I gotta say, if you remove that skin, you're losing the best part of what we're cooking today. Yeah, people like, yeah, I've seen lots of people try and substitute cilantro with parsley, and I don't understand why you would do that. Other than the fact that it does look similar, so it does look like cilantro, but it's a completely different aromatic flavor. Parsley more commonly found in other things, probably like Italian foods where I use parsley. Cilantro more commonly found, I guess, in Mexican food, but also like Chinese food and stuff. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's real good. That's super tasty. All right, let's clean this up. Did I put the used knife back in the drawer? Yeah, I did. I probably should wash that. I'm probably going to wash it. What's most important with carbon steel is that you want to make sure it's dry. Although I did just notice that it's used. That's the point. Carbon steel, though, if you have a carbon steel like this one, what's really important is that it's got to be dry before you put it away. If it's dripping wet, the water from that water still on the knife is going to start oxidizing. That's what happens when that's what's happening when you see carbon steel knives that have like oxidation damage or like rust going on. That's how that happens. It's because it was held while it was still wet, which I actually did once, which is not cool. This is a good way to damage a very expensive knife. But also another good reason, by the way, if you're getting into knives and you don't want to have to constantly wipe the knife down, avoid carbon steel. Slaw. And finally, here's lime juice. Limes, by the way, a great way to help plate your tacos and make them look nice and pretty like this. That's how they do that. What kind of knife or sword do I battle with? I don't know the answer to that. Yeah. Cool. If you don't eat taco with lime, you're an antichrist. Yeah, that is true. You're a monster. Classic pairing. Yeah, so my favorite part about this whole recipe is the skin on salmon, and that like really high heat, but also really brief sear that you're doing, because it kind of like separates the two things that you're constantly battling with salmon. Number one is how to not overcook the salmon, which happens all the time. I see so many people overcooking their salmon because it is a really difficult meat to cook because it cooks so quickly. That's the same reason why you could eat it raw. But the number two thing is that skin on, because it gets this nice crispy charred quality to it. Some people might call that burnt. I call it charred or seared. Sear is technically just a controlled burn or burned in a pleasant way. Some people say that it causes like cancer. I don't know about that. That's bullshit. But what I always consider of a sear is that it's a seared or burnt in a controlled way that gives you this nice crispy and charred quality to it. It's where all that smoky quality and that crunchy qualities that are coming out of your crisp come from. So it's all coming from that sear. So it's nice controlled burn that comes from that skin, which you would not be able to do if that skin was not still attached. So lots of people, they like to remove the skin from their salmon because they think that it's chewy, or they just don't like the idea of eating the skin of a salmon, which is, to be fair, is also kind of true. It's a little bit gross, but it's also sort of like if you were eating fried chicken and then picked off the skin of the fried chicken. That's kind of the best part of the fried chicken is the skin part. So if you pick off the skin, you're losing the best part. But if you really don't like the skin of your fish, you can just peel it off at the very end. And then what's going to be underneath it is all of that perfectly cooked, but like really, really tender salmon. It's also going to be really, really juicy because the skin, while that skin is still held on, it's helping the salmon retain lots and lots of moisture. So when you bite into it, you get this nice juicy piece of salmon that you would otherwise not have been able to achieve without that skin, because it's kind of holding all that moisture in. So totally in your discretion. If you really don't like skin on your salmon, go ahead and pick it off, and it's going to be a really, really juicy piece of salmon. But I gotta say, you're missing out the best part. Yeah, cool. Cool. So I think that's it. I know that I removed lots of, I missed lots of questions because this chat was moving really fast. I saw there was like 30,000 people in the chat at one point. So I'm sorry if I missed something. Feel free, and if you're still here, feel free and repeat yourself. I'll be here doing dishes, so I'll still be able to answer questions and stuff. Lastly, so this particular recipe, if you're looking for it, it comes from the YouTube channel. So this is our recipes. They're coming out over on the YouTube channel every Friday. So if you haven't checked that out yet, here's that recipe. These are out every Friday. So last Friday we came out with the recipe for this miso glazed salmon taco. The Friday before that we did, I think we did raboki, which is a Korean street food dish. I forget what we came out with before that, but those recipes, they're out every Friday. So if you're looking for stuff like that, definitely check out that series. This particular taco is based off of a series that we've been doing dedicated to creating foods from like Asian fusion cuisine. So we did a lapchang carbonara, which is essentially an Italian pasta carbonara done without the guanciale or pork. We replaced that with is a pork sausage that comes from Chinese food called lapchang. That one's really, really good, actually. Also, like, surprised the first time that I have ever cooked cheese in a wok, which is really interesting. What else did we do? We did a kimchi fried rice that's part of that series. I honestly can't remember everything that we've done in that series anymore. Oh, coming up very soon is a crispy garlic noodle, which is inspired by a pasta aglio olio, which is like an Italian pasta that has like slow cooked garlic. So like really, really low and slow olive oil cooked, seared or cooking in garlic, which we did in a Chinese noodle using like Singaporean thin noodles. So I seared these Singaporean thin noodles and then slow cooked a whole bunch of garlic in the wok and kind of tossed it in those crispy noodles for a pretty interesting result. That's coming out next Friday, actually. So lots of stuff like that popping up over on the YouTube channel yet. So if you haven't checked out the YouTube channel, definitely hop over there next. Check out what's going on. Those recipes are out every Friday. That's also where this computer behind me is going to too. So if you want to find out what we're going to be cooking on live stream next too, there's a whole schedule of live streams that lives over on the YouTube channel too. So the folks who are watching over on YouTube knew a long time ago that we would be cooking this. I think this has been on the schedule for like 4 weeks because I postponed it at one point because I was too tired to cook it one day. So here we are. So lots of stuff like that living over on the YouTube channel. So definitely hop over there and check it out. That's Ham Charl. Please feed Ham Charl. He only gets to eat ramen every time somebody subscribes. So yeah. Yeah, miso or maple, yeah, or you can do even like a maple miso glazed salmon. That's going to be really, really tasty. Anything that contains lots of sugar, that's going to do really well in a glaze. So like you could do a honey miso glazed salmon. It's also really good. Also really good with Brussels sprouts. So you could use like miso honey or miso maple syrup, and then toss it in some Brussels sprouts. That's going to be really, really tasty. Basically, what we're doing is like taking those sugar elements from that from the honey or the maple syrup. And it's going to crystallize really nicely and give you this really nice glaze. Yeah. Ooh, yeah, Korean cooking. Yeah, that's definitely, we have been doing a lot of Korean stuff. Let's see, we're, sundubu jjigae, that's coming up a couple of weeks from now. I think probably at the end of the month. I think that's coming out the end of the month. Sundubu jjigae is like a Korean, like a slow-cooked Korean stew. Which is tricky to reproduce because it requires a very specific bowl. So it requires a ceramic bowl that's heat-proof that you use right on top of your range. I don't have one of those, so I did one of those recipes, but I did it in a wok. And it required a little bit of an adaptation because I actually don't own one of those bowls. But yeah, that recipe coming up pretty soon. We do lots of kimchi, a lot of Korean stuff, for sure. Yeah, let me know if you tried this recipe. Definitely head over to the YouTube channel, bookmark the recipe. Those are always a lot easier to follow than the live streams because I like ramble a lot in these live streams. But definitely let me know if you try them. I always love to hear from folks who try it. There's also a subreddit, r/WuCanCook, that's really useful and like cool because people post their pictures, and I like to see when other people try. Because most of the time, not always, but most of the time when people try the recipes, especially the stuff that comes from like real deal Chinese, most of the Chinese stuff, because of that's what I know most about cooking is Chinese cooking. So lots of times, especially with the Chinese stuff, we're using ingredients that not everybody can find, especially like fresh chow fun, things like that. So it's always super fun to see when people try that stuff because they usually end up doing some kind of substitution or alternate. And it's always really interesting to see what people sub out and like kind of like how did they figure out how to make this without access to X, Y, or Z. So a lot of the Chinese stuff I'm using like fresh chow fun or like fresh lo mein, or maybe we'll like using like black vinegar or things that you can only really find if you live in Chinatown. And that's always really interesting to see how other people manage to pull that off without access to that stuff. Yeah, definitely post some pictures. Ooh, yeah, yeah, you might be able to do it in a Pyrex bowl. I would be worried about that cracking over direct heat. Pyrex is technically heat-proof, which means that if you have a really nice Pyrex plate, that technically should be fine. But what Pyrex is really intended for is going in an oven. And that's like more indirect heat because I don't think it's like a direct heat source. It's like heat source coming from down and up. Whereas like if you try to put a Pyrex plate on top of a gas range, what I think would happen is it would probably just crack because you're hitting it with like literally just direct flame, which I don't think Pyrex is built for. I could be wrong about that. Honestly, you could just make it in a like a pot and it would be fine. What's really tricky about sundubu jjigae is that it's like iconically made with an egg drop that goes straight in and essentially poached in the stew. The only way that works is you have to be putting it in the bowl that you're going to eat out of, which makes it a little bit more difficult if you're not actually eating out of it, because the only other way that you can reproduce that is put the sundubu jjigae into a bowl, the one that you're going to eat out of, and then poach the egg in that bowl, which is kind of hard to do because you now have to rely on like residual heat to poach that egg, which is a little bit tricky and not really the same thing. But maybe I'll just go get one of those bowls. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, yeah. Ooh, yeah. That's cool. I've noticed that like lots of people have been mentioning that they have access to Asian markets in places that I would not have expected, like Atlanta. I have like talked to people in like Canada and stuff that have like, oh yeah, I live next to an Asian market, like a really small one or something, or some people that to find an H Mart. Yeah. Cool. You're an old lady in Canton. Yeah, cool. Oh yeah, Asian custard bun. That was actually one of the earlier recipes that we did. So we did an Asian custard bun. I forget the Chinese name for it, but we did it. It is inspired by something that you see in Avatar: The Last Airbender. Last Airbender? No, I think it's just the Avatar, the animated series. And we actually did two different versions of it because the dough that you use to make a custard bun. I should probably just link it. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, there's the sweet custard bun. So the dough that you use in that sweet custard bun is the same dough and like bun recipe that you would use for a lot of things that come from Chinese baking. So it's the same thing that's used in a cocktail bun. It's the same thing that's used in a baked tassu bao. All of those things, they're using the exact same bun, which means that if you know how to make that dough, you can make a whole bunch of stuff in that. So what we did, I used it for two different things. I made a custard bun and I made a cocktail bun. Those are my two favorites. But if you know that recipe, you can make all kinds of stuff. So the tassu bao has been on my to-do list, which is a Chinese pork bun. You could also do like a red bean bun. That's like a really, really common dessert. I might actually do that this week. That's going to be really tasty. Ooh, spicy duck. Duck is tricky. That's also like a very highly requested recipe. Duck is really tricky because the way that it's made in restaurants, that's the same reason why you see it hanging in windows. It's because it has to be dry aged. That's how they do it. That's why it's always hanging in the windows, because it's got to hang there for a couple of days. Which means if you're going to do it at home, you have to have somewhere for that thing to hang for 3 days. So unless you want to hang a duck in your apartment for 3 days, you got to figure out a different way of hanging that thing. Same thing. That's the same way that tassi was made, or like a Chinese pork. It's hung. That's what you're looking at when you go past like a Chinese butcher shop or like a pastry shop, and you see those things hanging in the windows. That's what they're doing, is they're aging the tassi and the pork, the tassi pork, and also the ducks. Sometimes you'll see like chicken hanging in the windows. So those are like some things that are on my to-do list, but I honestly don't know how I would cook that in an apartment, unless I like had a friend that had a backyard or like a slow cooker or something that I could hang a rack of pork in for like 48 hours. I don't know how I would do it. Duck is really expensive, but I wouldn't mind paying it if I had a good reason to do it. Ooh, yeah, The Legend of Zelda foods. I would have to take a shit. Yeah, duck costs a lot of money. You have to bite the bullet on duck for sure. Honestly, at a certain point, you might as well just like order it in a restaurant. But it would be fun and interesting to kind of figure out how that stuff is made. I like a Peking duck and figure out how to do that. That would be really hard to figure out how to butcher though, and also like maybe not worth it. We'll see. Yeah. Yeah, you can't hang a duck without the cats getting it. Yeah, for sure. Or like roaches, or like that. That's like I've seen. Usually, what I've seen when people attempt it in apartments is they hang it out on their like balcony. If you're trying to do it in a balcony or do it in an apartment, you hang it out in the balcony. I know that you could get certain things, which basically is like an enclosure for the duck, so you can hang it in that enclosure. But that alone costs like $100 or something. It's kind of like a rotisserie spin that you would do like a chicken. Ooh, Sister Silence, did I miss something? I didn't see. That's right, it looks like I missed something. Oh yeah, Sister Silence, it looks like I missed something, but I can't find your question. Sorry, this chat, the chat only scrolls back by five lines, so I miss stuff all the time. Yeah, dry aged cabinet. That's a dry aged cabinet. That's exactly what you would need for like things like tassi bao and like Peking duck or like a dry aged chicken. All of those things. That's how it's done. You could also you can make pork belly, or you can make bacon. That's how bacon is made. Is from pork belly that has been dry cured. All of those pancetta, you could do that. All kinds of stuff. That's what you need for a dry aged cabinet. Yeah, birds would get it, exactly. Yeah, or like any kind, roaches would get it, rats would get it, all kinds of stuff. Oh yeah, how to get custard in a custard bun without evaporating it. How did I do it? I honestly don't remember how I did that. How do we get the custard in the custard bun? I think I don't remember how I made that custard bun. That was so long ago. Let's see if I have the recipe here. I'm gonna look for it. It's in this notebook somewhere. Right, here it is. Yeah, how did I get the custard in that custard bun? I don't remember how I made it. Yeah, that's how I did it. So we spread the filling on top of the bun, and then you kind of roll it around it. But I don't remember how I got the custard inside. I'm sorry. You're gonna have to look up the YouTube video. That I have not made that bun since we did the video. Yeah, I don't remember. I'm gonna have to look up the YouTube video. Let me see if I can find the YouTube video. Yeah, I don't remember how I got that custard in there. Yeah, that does resolve. Cool. Here's the YouTube video. And as soon as I end this chat, I'm gonna rewatch that video. I can't remember for the life of me how I made those custard buns. But what I think we did is like rolled the custard inside of the bun, and then we like rolled the bun around the custard. Yeah, I did not write down how I made it. No, it's not written down here. I don't know how I made it. I'm sorry. I'll look it up. I'll have to look it up. All right. You want to find a recipe for quail tacos? Ooh. Quail, yeah, I would definitely, if I could find quail. I honestly don't know where to find quail. I'll have to look. I'm sure that you can find it in Chinatown. I'll have to look. There's actually a quail recipe that I used to eat a lot when I was a kid too. Duck eggs, yeah, duck eggs are really common in Chinese food. They're basically just they're like smaller chicken eggs. They're like a little bit more rich. Honestly, I don't think it's really worth it because they cost a lot. But they're basically, I think I used duck egg when I did the tea eggs a long time ago. But I don't think it's worth it because they yield less egg white and honestly just like less meat. It's like a little bit more gamey and like a little bit more like concentrated in flavor. But at a certain point, just use chicken egg. It's gonna be fine. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's a food syringe. I think what I did was I balled up the custard. So you make the custard, and you put a lot of it in it, and then what happens is you roll the bun around the custard, sort of, and then, like so once the bun is rolled around the custard, then you like tuck it underneath, and that's kind of how it gets in there. It's not injected. It's rolled around it, but I have to look it up. Yeah. Salad. Oh, I don't know what that is. Center. Cool. I'm really hungry. I'm gonna ooh snake eggs. Ooh yeah, I haven't had snake eggs. I haven't gotten really into like a lot of like super gamey stuff. I bet it's super tasty though. Yeah, dub-breasted stew. That's gonna be really good. For sure. Cool. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Wesley. This is Wu Can Cook. If this is your first time tuning in, we're here streaming every Tuesday and Thursday at 6:30 PST. Always super exciting to see that we're top broadcasting, like all these people watching. That's really cool. Definitely check out the live streams. We're here every Tuesday and Thursday though at 6:30 PST with new recipes over on my YouTube channel every Friday. So last Friday we cooked or released the recipe for this miso salmon glazed fish taco. This Friday coming up is going to be a recipe for a crispy garlic noodle, which is both part of the same series, which is part of this series that we've been doing, developing like Asian fusion recipes. This one smashing together miso paste coming from Japanese food and tacos coming from Mexican cuisine. This Friday coming up, we're going to be doing a Chinese crispy garlic noodle that's done in the style of a pasta aglio olio, which is an Italian Italian pasta dish that's got like really thinly sliced garlic that's slow cooked in olive oil to give this really fragrant quality to it. So lots of stuff like that coming up over on the YouTube channel. So if you haven't checked that out yet, definitely head over to the YouTube channel and check out what's going on over there. Lots of fun stuff coming up every Friday. What else? We're not going to be live streaming next Tuesday, but let's see. The next thing that we're cooking is crispy garlic noodles. Yeah, we're going to be cooking crispy garlic noodles next. Oh, that's not actually coming up. Yeah, cool. Yeah, so lots of stuff coming up. Definitely head over to the YouTube channel. Check out what's going on over there. That's also where the schedule of live stream lives too. So if you want to find out what we're cooking next, definitely head over there. Check out what's coming up next, and I'll see you soon. Chicken embryos. Oh, that makes sense. I haven't had that. That sounds it's probably really tasty though. Cool. All right. Thanks everyone. I'll see you soon. Bye. Thanks. if you think that you don't know. Never mind that you still don't love yourself. No. You can find it from somebody else now. Everybody's got to go up. Sometimes funny how we shoot the mood. Still, will we fight it, baby? Alright, never mind. Then I found what I'm looking for, baby. Yes, I found it now. Alright, I'm finally in love with love, and it's bringing me down. Want to be, baby, yes. Do you want to be, baby? Alright. Oh, wait now, baby. I said everybody wants to be. I still got dreams, but they don't love me like they used to love it. And I'm reminded of how bad I used to want it. And yes, I still got dreams, but more like a junkie of my 20s, and it's breaking me down. Want to be, baby, yes, want to be.
fancy whiskey. You're as sweet as strawberry wine. Your bed warm, glass of brandy, darling, I'll stay stone on your love all the time.
time. Good baby, gonna need some help now. Stop tripping to the dangerous. Trust no one but yourself, baby. Well, I'm all night, going on and on. Well, I'm all night, going on and on. I can't feel you burning up. I can't feel you burning up. Now, well, I'm all night, going on and on. Now, well, I'm all night, going on and on. I can't